The sky so far, but I can't lose it.
Sim racers from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed ground. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now.
In a year of new challenges for the drivers of the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series, it's time to add yet another unique venue to the series history books. As the year winds into its final third, Mike Razmas has started to extend his championship advantage, but most eyes will be focused on the return of a former champion and a Lionheart heavyweight as Adam Blocker returns to the Lotus 79. Welcome to the first of a doubleheader in Japan. Welcome to the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpot TV and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Later on tonight, I'll be joined by the delightful Justin Prince. Today, at least for now, I ride by myself as we dive straight into our next level racing pre-race show because we're in for a blockbuster of the 2 weeks. First up, the road course at Motegi, flowing fast and technical with some undulation. Next week, it's over to the unique egg-shaped oval that was built for Honda to attract American open wheel here to Japan. Here's a look at the Next Level Racing Series schedule as we wind into the final of the 6 races. 2 up in September and then a couple of weeks off before we head up north to Canada. After that, down south into the shadow of the Gateway Arch for Road America, America's National Park of Speed. We'll play host to the penultimate round and the final road course race of 2022 in these Lotus 79s. Double Points Auto Club, December 15th, the showcase for it all. It's going to be a fun one. That is for sure. Let's take a look at your Next Level Racing driver standings because it is Mike Razmas who is extending his advantage. However, it is Matt Taylor at the front again. These two were tangoing last year with Aaron Morgan. Unfortunately, they missed out Taylor in the narrowest of margins. David Seward's keeping them honest as well, and Michael O'Brien, who's shown speed on the road course, is grabbing his first career win in Lionheart Retro Series competition earlier in 2022. Sits in 4th. Ricky Harding slightly further way back in 5th, but only 1 point splits him from Chris Lanini. Only one rookie in these overall top 10 standings, which is a slight shock given the relative strength that we have of the rookie class. A look though at your HyperX team standings because look how close it is. 3 points is all that separates MadWorks Motorsports from Graphics LC, but then it's almost a further 270 points back to Raven Lavoie Motorsports, who find themselves in some no man's land. It's significant. It will be MadWorks versus Graphics LC all the way to the very end. They have very much been the class of the fields so far in 2022. And in a year of some standout rookie performances, it's maybe no shock that David Rodriguez comfortably leads the Butt Kicker Rookie of the Year standings. After the partial run for Rodriguez in 2021, he returns with his RSR by Butt Kicker team and with some numbers as well. 137 points clear of Luke Daniels and the 40 Sim Racing Machine. Rodrigo Munoz, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, and Cristobal Valenzuela make up the top 5 in these Rookie of the Year points standings. We talk then about your Gomez Sim Industry Series details and what is Season 6 of this Lionheart Retro Series in Year 9 of the Lionheart Racing Series. We're campaigning in this Lotus 79, a ground effect beast designed to tame Grand Prix tracks around the world, but we've taken it to ovals in America and yes, now to some of the finest road courses that iRacing has to offer. Cash and prizes just over $7,000 for our drivers, with our champion walking away with a Next Level Racing GT track cockpit, as well as a MOZA Racing direct drive wheelbase and Formula steering wheel. We've got 2 of our Triple Crowns down, just 1 more left to play as we head to that final round in Auto Club when double points will be on the line. Will it be a blockbuster championship showdown like we saw with Aaron Morgan and Matt Taylor? I don't know. You'll have to tune in on December 15th to find out all about that. Avatar Auto Racing, of course, splitting ways with 2 of the drivers going forward to MadWorks Motorsports looking to defend a lineal championship. We'll track that storyline, of course, as we work through the remaining portion of this season. Well, perfect timing because as we wrap our way through these post-race graphics, it is now time to look at some on-track action. It is time for Go Fast time. It is time to go qualifying. We'll throw 10 minutes up on the board and drivers will get 4 flying lap attempts. Now, Bias ply tires. Traditionally in this series, drivers would expect maybe lap 4 to be the fastest of the flying laps, but today we expect the unexpected in a season where drivers have tried all sorts of different tire strategies. So we'll track that, of course, as we work through the course of this race. And if you're watching live on RaceSpot TV, head over to racespot.wtf/Indy to follow along with your favorite team and drivers, thanks to our friends at Timing 71. If you're watching on ESTV after the fact, well, it's even cooler. You can use Timing 71 to go back in time and sync the timing up exactly with the coverage, so we highly recommend you add to your viewing experience and delve into the world of timing and what it can add to your viewing experience. So remember, the last time we went racing in this Lionheart Retro Series was on the streets of Long Beach just over a month ago in August 18th, a long time ago. It was Sean Campbell, the debutant, that put it on pole and then dominated on his way into HyperX victory lane. But in a season where only Mike Rasmus has been a consecutive winner, will Campbell be the first consecutive pole position winner? Twin Ring Motegi, I'm sure, will have plenty of stories to tell. That is for sure. Campbell's got a tall order, that is for sure, in the form of this man, the Lionheart King Adam Blocker, the 4-time Lionheart IndyCar Series champion, heads to Twin Ring Motegi. He won here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series a couple of weeks ago in a physical battle with Phil Krause, it's fair to say. What will it require from the 74 machine as Blocker gets ready to go once again in this Lotus 79? Down the hill into the penultimate set of corners, Blocker making his 31st career start, has 9 previous career wins, 24 top 5s, 25 top 10s, and 3 pole positions. Will he add to it today? We'll ride on board with him for a lap at Twin Ring Motegi. It was formerly known, now though, renamed to the Mobility Resort Motegi. Running yourself in towards turn number 1, a almost double apex right-hand hairpin. Blocker using the curb to maximize the entry. Down a couple of gears, sweep it back, patient on the power, and notice that these curves are flat, so you can afford to use them. You will see drivers pushing the limits of the track, especially here on the run into turn 2. Murder some cones on the right-hand side. Blocker nice and tidy, but it's all really about setting up turn 4. Tentative on the power, but I think he was already full throttle before he got to the apex of turn 3. Nice and tidy. As he descend turn 4, braking at the 75-meter mark basically, and go underneath the oval. A unique viewing experience, and then diving in towards 5 and 6 and through towards the S's. Listen to the commitment from Blocker, down a gear in towards what is turn 8, and then this is where he got the move done for the lead. So watch for turn 9, which isn't a full 90 tight hairpin, but it very much widens on its exit, so you can afford to run a little bit wider. Crucial corner though at turn 10 to get onto the back straightaway. Watch Blocker manage those rear tires as he stomps onto the power. Times beginning to trickle on in. Benchmark now is Taylor. The 140.013, Campbell second. Down the hill, gravity works against you. So easy to go deep into the braking zone, but Blocker's nice and tidy. Slings it into the tricky final complex of corners. Look at the line being taken again. It's all about the patience, picking up the enormous power that this car has. He'll run himself to the line. Will Adam Blocker run to the top with a 139.947? It will be pole. Michael O'Brien second, 200ths off the pace with 6 minutes still left to play in this qualifying session. It could go any way. Matt Taylor trending well on what is lap number 2 for him, already winding into the final sector on the lap. Plenty to talk about in terms of changes, not in terms of the physics of this car, but a full revamp, top to bottom graphically from iRacing, has resulted in drivers having to quickly rework some paint schemes. We'll see some rather plainer looking designs through the course of today. So 140.013 for Taylor, his first time by. With half of qualifying done, will the man sitting second in the championship be able to run himself further up the grid? Powers out of the final corner. It's a 39.905, a tenth of an improvement, good enough for pole. now lays the gauntlet down to the likes of David Sirah, the 99 Raven Lavoie Motorsports car next to the line. Slight improvement. It will be O'Brien that goes fastest of them all provisionally, a 39.722, 2/10 quicker than them all. But here comes Blocker once more to the line. Time's getting quicker and quicker as we go, and Blocker with a 39.882, only able to snatch back second. It's O'Brien that sits on top. Gabe Wood jumps to 7th. Couple of penalties to talk about. Chris Fowler as an end of line, he'll be starting at the back. Cristobal Valenzuela, we will also no longer see him this season. One too many incidents, while over the incident limit, an incident count indeed for this championship has seen him suspended for the rest of the season. It will be one of your 3 Backfire Motorsport machines not in the field. Not really seeing too much improvement from those at the front. It's the 23 RSR by butt kicker Marius Valiokis, and might be trending the best of them all. New paint scheme for this car as well, with that redesign and opportunity for a rethink. Love the sound of this Lotus 79 as Valiokis spears to the final sequence. Nice and tidy, not really fighting the car. Now a big trend upwards indicated, a 39.4227 will be able to get him up into the top 3 rows. Rodriguez's teammate slides behind him into 8th. They'll start alongside, or rather bumper to bumper if it starts as this. Taylor now on to his final lap. O'Brien is as well. They did not improve on lap 3. Can Blocker find more pace as he will start his final lap? 39.792. More speed, but still second for Blocker. In our inaugural trip here to the Twin Ring Motegi Grand Prix layout, top 10 cars split by 0.8 of a second. We look from up above as Blocker will cut underneath that oval. Sean Campbell looking pretty good though, as he will start his final sweep down out of turn 10 and run himself through the hill into the braking zone at turn 11. Look how late they get onto the brakes as well, so confident that the car will stop when they need it to. Campbell trending well, O'Brien's trending well as well though. Bit of a power slide, Taylor to second, 2,000ths off O'Brien. Here comes Campbell to the line with a 39.722. He matches O'Brien. 1,000th will split them at the end. O'Brien does not find time on his final lap. It leaves just 1. The gauntlet laid down for Adam Blocker to roar into the series and roar back to the front. Searching for career number 4 pole. Can Adam Blocker do it at the death with 50 seconds left? 1,000th quicker, but no improvement on starting position. Adam Blocker starts 4th on his return to the Lotus 79s. Top 5 split by 4.5 of a second. Can Luke Daniels, who's running well, of course, in our Rookie of the Year standings, be able to find some grid position, provisionally 20th, will come to the line for the very final time. It's going to be a big improvement, you know, a 41.4, a full second quicker, gets him up to 16th spot. So qualifying will wind down, And my word, what a qualifying session it was. We're almost ready to go racing for the first of 2 races here at Twin Ring Motegi. Next time out, we head to the Oval. Today, it's about debuting the Motegi Grand Prix layout for the Lionheart Retro Series. We're ready to run you down through the starting grid for the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi. And as we look at your butt kicker starting grid, it is career pole position number 9 for Michael O'Brien as he looks for win number 2 in his Retro Series career. Sean Campbell, 400th off the pace. Matt Taylor, then 2,000ths further back. We may be in for a blockbuster of a race. Adam Blocker, the returning champion, lines up on the outside of row 2 with Mike Razmas showcasing some new colors and some interesting colors for sure, alongside Marius Valiokas, who completes the top 6. Behind them, David Sirwa and David Rodriguez share row 4, while Tyler Graf lines up inside of Gabe Wood, bookending the top 10. Alex Guyon, Chris Reagan, 11th and 12th positions for them, with Anna Frazier and Richie Hearn 13th and 14th spots. Jim Herrick and Luke Daniels 15th and 16th in the 40 sim racing cars, while Rodrigo Munoz in the bright orange of Backfire Motorsports in the 09 lines up inside of Ricky Hardin in the Raven Motorsports Silver number 7. Completing the top 20 is the traditional teal for Trevor Malone. Paul Jenkins alongside with a big delta through the top 20. Danny Roberts, Robert Mikes, Hugo Gallus and Craig Forsyth. Top 24th, and all the cars with lap times on the board. Behind them, Chris Fowler with his end-of-line penalty. Mark Cohn and Chris Lanini will make up the rest of your 27-car field that is ready to inaugurate Lionheart Retro Series competition here at Twin Ring Motegi. As always, we've got onboard cameras to walk you through. Quick onboard lap, rather formation lap, so let's quickly do that before we get underway. Craig Forsyth has the Extreme Scoring on board. Your complete league management software. Visit extremescoring.info. David Sirwa carries the Gomez Sim Industries onboard camera, makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Visit gomezsimindustriescom. Richie Hearn carries your Next Level Racing onboard look. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. And Matt Taylor in third rides with HyperX. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. Well, what are we in for? In our Lionheart IndyCar Series race here a couple of weeks ago, it was a battle, a physical war between Adam Blocker and Phil Krause. Blocker came out on top then, but it's Michael O'Brien that will look to convert from pole position for the second time in 2022. He'll bring us to the green flag of the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi. We're racing in Japan. It's a great start from O'Brien. Campbell able to cover second. Blocker immediately gets up into third though and sets the momentum and the tempo for this race safely through turn 1 though. All 27 cars jockey for position on the run into turn number 2. Couple of cars looking for opportunities. Blocker checked up as now Campbell with a bit of breathing space will now settle into momentum as I believe maybe Chris Reagan has a terrible exit on the run out of turn 3. Danny Roberts, we're seeing plenty of movement up and down. Matt Taylor, crucially, second in the championship and in the middle of the road. The Madworks Motorsports machine drops to the very back of the field. A bit of a breakaway forming now between the front 2 cars as drama in the championship for Matt Taylor. Blocker with some work to do to cut down the gap if he's going to be able to stay in tow with those at the front. But it would be very hard to bet against Campbell and O'Brien given the pace they've shown over the course of this season. And my name is Arjuna Kankipati. I'll be joined by Justin Prince in a couple of moments' time. But leading at the end of lap 1 of 42, Michael O'Brien, 4/10 clear of Sean Campbell, with Adam Blocker in third, Valiokas fourth, Sirwa, Razmas, Rodriguez, Graf, Wood and Guyon making up the top 10. Let's go back in time though and take a look at the RaceSpot TV replay and pick up what happened to Matt Taylor, because in terms of championship. It doesn't get more important than this, and it's the mistake from Blocker that compromises Taylor and sets up all the shenanigans. I'll have to grab another look at this one, but it's deep into the braking zone from Blocker. Locks the right front, and then with some contact with Razmas, that's what actually spins him around. And he's going to bring his car back to pit lane, so clearly whatever happened in that contact has left his car a little bit worse for wear. Gabe Wood has lost a couple of positions as well. Taylor had to limp that car back to pit lane. He lost a lot of time all the way around. Let's pick up what happened to Gabe Wood. He's just too greedy on the throttle out of turn 3. Plenty of aero wash and dirty air to contend with as well, and it really does check you up all the way through. See who's fastest this time by. See how the tire game fares out over the course of the runs as well. Fuel window about 19 to 20 laps, but if you get it to 21 with a short formation lap to think about as well, never say never. Could we see the one-stop strategy claim the inaugural victory here? We know Blocker's great at fuel saving. Sean Campbell is in the draft. It does not get much more beneficial than this when we talk about the fuel games. Another replay to take a look at is I think Chris Lanini parks it in the kitty litter, and it might be day done for him. Definitely takes the toe to pit lane, but we'll track that. And of course, we'll watch the progression as we close in on lap 21 of our pit stop windows. Some momentous moments for the likes of Paul Jenkins, Mark Cohn, and Matt Taylor. For Paul Jenkins, it's career start number 60. For Mark Cohn and Matt Taylor, it's career start number 40. It will definitely not be the race, and Matt Taylor will be wanting to remember. And of course, in this 18-round championship, drivers are allowed to drop their 2 lowest scores of each round, so you would expect Taylor to use this as one of those 2 drop rounds in the championship. As word from race control is that contact will be reviewed post-race. Lap 1 contact, in the real world, it's always judged with a slightly different lens to how incidents later in the race when drivers are a little bit more settled, not engulfed in the packs in the same way are, so it will be an interesting proposition. Blocker struggling relative to the top 2, although maybe it's more a case of O'Brien looking to stretch his legs at the line, the gap half a second or so. Blocker only 1.5 back. O'Brien punches in the fastest lap, steals it back from Sean Campbell. I think we're in for a bit of tit for tat here. Razmas and Sirra have gone back and forth, but it is Razmas that will work forward back up into 5th. Good start for the likes of Richie Hearn, who now gets in front of Gabe Wood and up into 11th spot in his machine. The Elite West Racing blue and yellow number 70 looking splendid. Always great to have a driver of Richie Hearn's caliber with that real world pedigree when it comes to American open wheel racing. Don't believe Richie ever raced here at Motegi. IndyCar Series did, of course, race on the road course once after the oval was damaged, but before that, a long and storied history as Honda looked to bring IndyCar to this side of the world. Danica Patrick becoming the first woman to win in IndyCar, and then, of course, several years on from after the track being built and Honda looking for their very first victory. It was Dan Weldon, the Lionheart himself, that would become winner number 1 for Honda here at Twin Ring Motegi on the oval. Back at the front of the field as they'll wind up for yet another lap. Gap grows between your leader and Blocker, at least for a moment. It does look difficult to pass, and as a result, Seeing plenty of groups starting to form. We ride on board with Chris Reagan in the number 19. You can see Alex Guyon in front with those staggered tires. A little bit more traction as you spool the power all the way through these rear wheels. But 9th through 13th really not split by more than 2 odd seconds as through turn 3 Reagan darts his car. Watch the hands, watch the feet. No in-car tools to really talk of. Mark Cohn trying something different, by the way. Notice he came down to pit lane as Reagan has a bit of a moment there. Will now have to fight Richie Hearn, who has a look to the inside, but unable to take advantage. A big old tank slapper there for Chris Reagan. Would have had his heart in his mouth for a moment. Of course, now allows the opportunity for Hearn to close back up. We look rearwards from Chris Reagan and jump on board with our Next Level Racing onboard camera and look over the shoulder of Richie Hearn. Now, one of the crucial things that this rework has done, visual overhaul that this car has received. Yes, unfortunately, it has meant that all the paint schemes have had to be totally redone. But you'll just notice, right? If I can, I might have to break out a slightly different colored pen, unfortunately, because of the state of Richie Hearn's paint scheme. We're right here. There's no gap. There used to be a gap right about there. So many things have changed with the graphical nature of this car. Fortunately, not much changes with the actual physical nature of this car for drivers to figure out. Luke Daniels still trying to figure out the final sequence of corners, it would appear, as he has a bobble through that final corner. Now, was there a bit of contact from behind? We'll grab another look and we'll watch the entire sequence. See in front, Trevor Malone battling with Rodrigo Munoz. Oh no, he just loses it a little bit early. Again, if you are thinking, Arjuna, there was never any contact there, just remember, still waiting for Justin Prince to join me here over in the comms booth. DJ Clark, my usual partner in crime, over at the Sebring International Raceway, commentating on this real-world cars thing, you know. We can't all be, unfortunately, as cool as DJ Clark commentating with his responsibilities, but we look forward to having DJ towards the end of the season with his experience in this Lionheart Retro Series. Always fun to call a race with DJ, and I wonder what he thinks of this overhaul to the graphical nature of this car. I know Tyler Groff has had a lot of work to do, one of the main painters for the series. Trevor Malone, the latest victim, and this time it's a hard lick into the wall on the exit of turn 10. Forced to take the tow, but one by one, in this very first race at Twin Ring Motegi, drivers having issue. There's already a car around, it should be noted there, and I'm not sure who that is. But actually in front of Forsyth, it's a sympathy moment, isn't it, from him? As he loops it around and will knock himself into the wall. I'm sure that's going to frustrate him. See if we can figure out what happened to that other car that was spun around. It's Danny Roberts in the all-red entry. Again, just struggling with power down. Now, Chris Fowler, I think, actually does clip in because he comes back down to pit lane. Oh, and there are unsafe rejoins, and then there is that. Unfortunately for Danny Roberts, that is a swift trip to the steward's office. And then a stern talking to. We'll grab another look at it if we can and try and jump on board with Craig Forsyth here, because my word, there's not much more he could do. Fowler able to release himself from pit road after about 5.7 seconds. Malone 90 seconds does look like terminal damage. Just seen him jump into our YouTube chat as well. Been an unfortunate race for him here today. So about roughly a third through the fuel run. You'd think with pit entry here being so treacherous, you would potentially want to try and avoid the extra stop. Now, Blocker maybe not so worried about losing ground. He thinks they're not saving fuel in front of him. So we'll have to track that as we have 7 laps in the books. David Sirrell runs himself in 6th in the Raven Lavoie Motorsports car. He is today's MOZA Racing featured driver as we take a look at his 30th career start, searching for what will be a 16th potential top 5. Has been very consistent in this series, came in as, I think it's fair to say, a road course ringer, but has adapted to the ovals and has very much found his place there. 5 pole positions to his credit as well, with a few, most of them being on ovals at this point, not just on the road courses. So very much one to watch. Debuted at Watkins Glen early last year. His best finish coming at Pocono, where he put it on pole in the first of our Triple Crown races early April 2022. So our MOZA Racing driver profile, David Sirrell for today's race, and you can see right on board with him how close he is to Mike Razmas. No doubting who it is. Read the name on the rear ring. We've seen so many cars go around. So important to be smooth and calm and precise. A fantastic facility this truly is. Now, of course, no longer the twin ring Motegi, the Mobility Resort Motegi. Built in 1997, oval last used in 2010. So it's been a long, long time. We'll see the, of course, staple GT, Super GT and Super Formula Series, of course, come here, but Grand Prix motorcycle racing coming here as well, of course, a lot. NASCAR Cup Series held an exhibition race here where it was the first race where Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jr. competed against one another. The moment that was. So Craig Forsyth rolling back down onto pit road. Been a difficult day for so many, but we're joined now by Justin Prince, who commentates usually alongside me on Wednesday nights in the Lionheart IndyCar Series, the voice of the Lionheart Speedway Series. JP, delighted to have you join us here at Twin Ring Motegi, and what a fascinating road course this is. And it was an interesting race with the IndyCar Series. We're in for an interesting one with fuel mileage with these Lotus 79s.
Lotus 79s always put on some strong racing, of course, just having the recent updates, especially with some of the car graphics with them. And it's been an intriguing one when you look at how things have fared out. Sean Campbell doing Sean Campbell things, keeping things tight. You also have a lot of hard drivers trying to be able to sort themselves together to make sure they're good to go in the fuel mileage. That was a huge talking point, remember, with the modern day cars. We're already seeing a stop and fact for Wood.
I actually think Wood may have had an issue on pit entry as well. We'll see if we can take a look at what happened to him. Tricky pit entry will very much, I think, add to the nerves when it comes to making the decision about whether it's a 1 or 2 stop. You say Sean Campbell doing Sean Campbell things. I think it's a bit of an understatement for those who are unfamiliar and maybe have only seen him last time the series was racing on the streets of Long Beach. Sean Campbell, one of the dominant forces in the Precision Racing League, another series we see here on RaceSpot TV. So very much someone adaptable, open wheel, tin tops, the lot. He can perform in them both. Let's take a look then at what happened here to Gabe Wood. So you'll see pit entry off to the right, and he actually loses sight of where pit entry is. I have a feeling that will also be an unsafe pit entry for poor Gabe Wood.
Yeah, he thought he seen the pavement, it looked like, there for a good moment or 10, and just instead of going off to the pavement, obviously, off into the sand trap he goes, just thought he was going on the right mark, just didn't see where he needed to go, goes to the wrong side of the commitment codes, essentially, in that sequence. Meanwhile, there goes a car. Bye-bye goes Robert Mikes.
That was a big old hit. He got basically stuck himself into the wall. Pushes wide, overcompensates on throttle, and Yeah, there's no recovering from that one. As for the lead, Sean Campbell takes advantage of maybe a mistake from Michael O'Brien, but after 10 laps of patience from the RSR by butt kicker car, Michael O'Brien loses out. Sean Campbell takes the point.
Still not backing down O'Brien, though, looking to try and get the switch back. He's got some decent pace. The problem has been he's gotten a bit of the wiggles, starting to get really loose, it appears, on these corner exits. Now O'Brien trapped on behind, trying to find a way to poke around.
And guess who's looming in the background? It is the inevitable Adam Blocker, who runs in third now, just over a second away from second, well and truly within drafting range. And if Blocker can catch, have no doubt that he will try something different when it comes to the pit strategy. 11 laps into this race, of course, halfway through the estimated fuel run. Plenty still to play for. In a series, in a year as well, JP, where this series has visited so many tracks for the very first time, and we're not done. We still have the circuit Gilles Villeneuve left to add to the Retro Series history books.
And that expected to be a competitive one because there are plenty of overtake sections. A very tight racetrack, absolutely. The run up towards that final chicane to the wall champions, one of the prime passing chances potentially, as well as the run up into Lepengo before that casino straight. So that will be a major talking point, I think, when you go to Montreal when it comes to the Lotus 79s. We've seen, though, the scrap build up here, though, because remember the last time we're on the road course together in the booth, Blocker had to close up 5 seconds with a different tire strat? He's been able to do raw pace things again by 8/10 a lap last time he closed into the leader.
And it wasn't just that he had the raw pace, right? It was the willingness to get the elbows out, which is so important in open wheel racing. The willingness to put your car where someone else maybe is not willing to. Let's grab a look at this sequence. You can already tell how defensive O'Brien was feeling in the moment, almost sliding wide through the opening sequence of corners. Then proactive in the block. Campbell throws the dummy in. Oh, a big tank slapper there from O'Brien. Campbell sails around the outside, cool as a cucumber.
Almost looked like he may have stomped on the brakes so hard it caused it to stabilize. Just looked very wiggly loose on that entry as he tried to decelerate to make sure he entered the corner. But now, the top thing for O'Brien is he is really trying to charge these corners, struggling to do so. That's costing lots of ground. That can make him vulnerable and quickly for Adam Blocker if he gets up there, and when he gets up there is the better term.
Very curious what we're going to see when it comes to the tire calls as well. Will someone gamble and try and take a tire here? I'll be shocked, but never say never. That is for sure. For Sean Campbell, I think we said one of 3 drivers in Lionheart Retro Series history to win on debut in this series. Of course, the first ever winner in the Retro Series technically is also a recipient of that mark, but feels a little unfair. Sean Campbell, fastest lap of the race at 39.372. Now that's almost 2/10 quicker than O'Brien. It's almost 6/10 quicker than Blocker, who clearly had a mistake in the end of that last lap.
Like I mentioned, Sean Campbell doing Sean Campbell things. You mentioned the versatility when it comes to driving. Races in various different series with all kinds of different cars. Seen him a few times pop up with his own camera at some point, Sergio, from the soup aisle. With his last name, of course, being Campbell.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about Sean Campbell's camera antics anymore after what he did in the Precision Racing League a couple of nights ago. I think Richie Hearn has had an issue, and indeed he has. Around goes the Elite West Racing machine. Drops outside of the top 10 and down into 12th position. We'll pick up what happened to Richie in a few moments' time. Yeah, Sean Campbell has very much scared some of our RaceBot TV commentators, Joey Tebben for one, with the intensity exuded through the camera at the end of one of his wins recently. You already know what I'm talking about.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yes, now you know where I'm going with this one.
What, you don't like intensely staring down your opponents that are watching you on the broadcast when they launch back to be able to establish your dominance?
I feel like he's staring me down as a commentator, though. I don't feel like he's really really doing too much. O'Brien very wide through the final corner, dips the two left sides into the grass, checks some of his momentum up into turn one, but that's not going to compromise him too much. Should see him still be able to hold on to that position. Here is the look at what happened to Richie Hearn, at least the aftermath of it, and again, just seems to be on power delivery, a little bit over-eager as we jump on board and we ride a look. You can just see the rear end stepping out and the hands trying to spin it back into control.
And a little boop for good measure too, to add some damage to the race car, to the barrier, putting those new artwork portions of this car to work. Seeing a little bit of that too, I believe, with the tires that you see, in terms of the markings on the tires, rather.
Yes, there's now Goodyear markings on the tire, although they're going fast enough that there's just a white blur for the time being. I'm impressed by the turnaround for MadWorks Motorsports, because it's been a busy period for some of these drivers trying to completely rework their paints to get it where they'd like it to be. But I'm sure it will be an iterative process over the rest of the year. Tyler Graf was saying that he'd already finished a handful of paints for next year's Lionheart Retro Series campaign. So, you know, now he's got to go back and rejig all of those ones as well. Blocker's going back and forth. You know, there are laps where he's close, and then there's laps where he's struggling to just maintain within a 2-second buffer. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but again, if it's anything to do with fuel saving, the odds are likely to go towards Blocker.
I think it's less about the fuel mileage, Arjuna, but more so from what I've noticed, keeping an eye on that 74, should say, series. Very loose. He's been in Apex in some of the first gear sections, in particular in the third sector. That's where he's been losing a lot of time, coming out of the hairpin curve through the 90 corner. Seen him get loose a little bit underneath one of the two of the bridges, in fact, as well. So he's starting to just get a little bit slidey, and that's what's, I think, really truly costing him a lot of this time on the racetrack. All of a sudden, he's starting to fall back to earth. Although he's setting personal best lap times doing it.
Yes, it's all. I mean, we should give the credit to those top two as well for having such sterling pace, because it very much is a three-car break. Valiokas unable to hang, Razmas as well. He's still somewhat fighting with Sirra, but there's somewhat of a separation between most of them. As, not sure the story behind Barnaby. Razmas can get his way past Valiokas and closer to a podium spot. Maybe we can ask him about it post-race, but it's a very, very different look for your championship leader, who looks on course for yet another top 5 finish. Luke Daniels now, in fact, on the charge to try and get past Paul Jenkins. Will make the mistake as they cut under the oval.
Looked like a bit of a slide off the racetrack, able to just gather it back up quickly, though. Yeah, just looped it around. At the slow speeds even, just may have just started to lose it on the entry, and it just slides until time you realize you're going around, you're already off into the grass.
Yeah, that wasn't even on power down. That was just the transition. Again, I don't think I said this at the start of the show, but fixed setup competition for everyone, JP. So, you know, you have to adjust your driving style to what the car is giving to you. It's always more complicated than when in an open setup competition. Okay, correct myself. Open setups are complicated, but to figure out how to drive a fixed setup can be a complicated challenge in its own right.
Yeah, and that's the major thing. You have to be able to know how to drive the setup and be able to maximize as much as you can out of it. Because in some circumstances, you might have a setup builder be able to have it, and one driver's able to execute from the onset, the next driver has to find lots of tuning stuff. And some of the things, mind you, Arjuna, you might have a setup builder come back to you and say, okay, you have to learn how to do this, or if you really want to win this race. And that becomes the major expectation for a team. You have to be able to learn how to maximize what you've got.
For Campbell, he's taken to it like a duck to water, so clearly the car is benefiting him. Setups built by RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella. Commentates on the Lionheart Speedway Series, still a regular competitor in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. So working over to lap 17. How is this going to play out when we come to that fuel window? Because in a few laps' time, we will find out. Richie Hearn with more trouble in his Elite West Racing car. This time into 2, just overcommits and overcooks it. Loses a spot then to Jim Herrick as a result of that one. Jim Herrick, our winner, of course, at Pocono in the first of the Triple Crown affairs. JP, as we look to the Motegi Oval coming up next, we won't think back too much to 2021 and the insanity of 5 wide in the opening 5 laps that took out the majority of the field. But it is one of those ovals that always puts chills in driver's steps because it's so unique and so challenging.
Now this track is always a tricky one. We've seen plenty of the top competitors struggle, especially in dirty air, to be able to work around. Here's the thing, though, when it comes to Twin Rim Motegi right now, Arjuna, we may start to see pit stops coming in. Luke Daniels just came in, and Alex Guillon may or may not have accidentally told all his competitors that he's got a lap of fuel left. So, in our words, we might see pit stops early.
Classic. Yes. And when going back to the point about, telling all your competitors, it's one of the things about sim racing. You have a channel, a direct line of communication to everyone else on track. So you got to be careful with exactly how you use it. If you pit this early, you are guaranteeing a 2-stop. At the front of the field, I don't think that's what you need. I think you need the 1-stop. However, have they really been able to maintain this relentless pace while hitting numbers? I somehow seem to doubt it.
That's got to be the major concern, where if you're not thinking the big picture racing, guess what? The picture frame's going to crack in by the time you find out or realize it that you've been pushing too hard trying to race. For lack of a better term, you end up losing more spots than you would playing the strategy game. That's why so many top crew chiefs on the iRacing service try and vouch or try and hammer in. Think big picture. You've got to hit that fuel mark. We mentioned the importance of that halfway point of this race being so tight. And we mentioned that was a talking point with the Dallara IR18 for the last race for Lionheart at this track as well. So you have to make sure you hit that halfway point if you're Michael O'Brien. Save, but still keep Campbell within your range to make sure he's within grasping distance when it's time to go full send.
2 different things on the line for each of these drivers. For Campbell, it is just victories. That's all that's really at the forefront of his mind. When it comes to Michael O'Brien, surely he's thinking about how he can close the championship gap to Razmas, or at the very least, get closer to second, or just get points for MadWorks Motorsports and the HyperX team standings compared to their rivals in Graphics LC. But here's the commitment from O'Brien. He is going for the 2-stop. He peels to pit lane.
Oh boy, now it becomes a strategic race. We've had one car cut through portions of the pit entry. Blocker is in. So now it becomes a really nerve-wracking race for the end.
So has Campbell been able to save more fuel while still being one of the fastest cars on track? That is amazing, I tell you what. I think we'll pick up what you were referring to here, JP, is it's Gabe Wood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he's just not getting along with the final sector, it's fair to say.
Gabe Wood's night has been an adventure, it seems, over the past 10 minutes or so. He's the last car on the track. So give him credit for still going.
Still running.
Yes, and remember, he hadn't been feeling well the previous run at IndyCar here.
So, O'Brien actually has built up a bit of a gap to Blocker through the cycle. 2.2 seconds, so good execution there, not just in getting into the lane, but no pit limiter, of course, for these cars. It's just about balancing that throttle with the RPM. So we're guaranteed a 2-stop from O'Brien and Blocker. Does Campbell respond on this lap as Richie Hearn as well as Ricky Hardin will roll out of pit lane? Look at the 26 car. Stage right he goes, coming to pit lane. We've got a battle as Campbell rolls into his box.
So that is a little bit lower than the projections, where it was up to 20, which would have been fuel mileage type of brace. Mike Rasmus also in. See if the undercut works out for the 45 compared to what Campbell's now doing in the box.
So not going up on the jack, so no tires for Sean Campbell. 6.7 stationary for him, half a second quicker than O'Brien. And you can see there's going to be a gap. 1.8 seconds and building. Sean Campbell with a slightly quicker pit stop and the overcut grabs a stronghold on victory here in the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi.
That was an important pit stop sequence, taking a little bit less fuel. Looks like he knows that it's going to be very difficult, in fact near impossible to make it on a one stop now. So try and have a little bit of a lighter car, try and break away from the pack here and see if he can run away. That's the major thing. Blocker took a lengthy stop, mind you. He's now 3 seconds back of O'Brien because of a sequence.
Maybe that explains why he is so far back. It was only half a second quicker in the box, 0.6 quicker in the lane, so not sure exactly how it all played out there. Let's grab a look at the RaceSpot TV replay machine, and Paul Jenkins getting spooked by Danny Roberts runs himself off into the grass and the gravel, and has to take the long way back onto terra firma and onto the tarmac itself. But we're shaping up for a fascinating final half of this race as we'll come across the line to put lap 20 into the books here at Motegi. 1.7 the margin. O'Brien has actually been able to keep Campbell quite honest, and maybe it flip-flops at the end, JP, and O'Brien's quicker in the box through the final set of stops.
Good point. Keep in mind, Campbell still has the buffer. That's the major thing. Blocker just couldn't break through that 2-second buffer before. Campbell, I've noticed, a little bit cleaner on the rolls compared to how O'Brien's attacking these corners. That might be the major advantage here for him to try and hold on to this gap over O'Brien, knowing how much harder into the corner O'Brien's trying to launch it.
Looking through for some of the other battles, Valioka still and Rasmus together. Rasmus has been able to get past through the cycle of pit stops. See how it fares out for them. Don't think we did see any tires. It's a bit of an interesting call. Wonder exactly how much they seem to be wearing. 4-car train that's formed up behind Chris Reagan. Got Guyon, Fraser, and Fowler. Fowler on lap 15 of his run. Of course, boxed very, very early, but will be able to pit soon and make it to the end of this race, JP.
And a much different intrigue and much different play compared to what we've seen previously, to say the least, here at this racetrack in some of the Air Series action. But Alex Guyon, his call to tell everyone he needed to come in for fuel still seems him in the midst of a battle potentially to get up to ninth with Chris Reagan with Adam Frazier behind. Chris Fowler's doing a solid job keeping things clean. Keep in mind, Fowler coming up from 25th up to the 12th spot amongst your biggest movers in this part of the race.
Gabe Wood jumps into the chat to say, well, that's what I get for forgetting to practice pit entry, but unfortunately, there are some pit entries that are trickier than others, JP. This just happens to be one that has an actual corner right before it.
And that's where some of the top drivers always practice pit entry to make sure you know what to execute. You have to make sure you dial that in if you want to be able to capitalize a lot of the time. Some drivers can lose several seconds if they don't hit that the right mark. Speaking of hitting things at the right mark,
it's Fraser and Guyon. The 88 gets past. Now can Fowler take advantage as well, because Guyon was very wide through this sweeping hairpin at turn 1. Onto the brakes they go. Guyon tucks into line, doesn't fight too hard. Halfway through this race with 21 laps still to play. Michael O'Brien starting to fall back at the front of the field. Take a look at the track map, JP. You can see that as these drivers begin the plunge down the hill out of turn 10, They don't have much traffic yet, but if they continue at this momentum, at this rate of knots, they will be dealing with it as we get to those final stages of the race.
That has to be a potential concern where if you can't get around the traffic quickly, that will absolutely cause a boxing effect potentially. Because if you end up having to ride behind even for a corner or two, that can cost you 3, 4, 5 tenths of a second. And that's where your patience really gets tested if you reach these drivers the wrong spot. Still a ways out, yes, but it's at least 3 corners up the track, so it has to be at the back of Campbell's minds now, coming around 20 to go.
Not too far away, that is for sure. Valiokas and Razmas will continue to be that fight, I think, to watch inside of this top 5 as they built the separation to David Sirois, who at one point was part of this battle pack. 27 ended up starting this race. We're down to 22 left running. All of those cars left on the lead lap. First to retire was Chris Lanini. We saw Matt Taylor retire on the very same lap, though. More significant, of course, is Taylor by virtue of being second in the championship, but for the HyperX team standings for both MadWorks Motorsports and Graphics LC to have lost a car, quite important in how things shake up in a championship race split by single digits. Trevor Malone then in 34 had his issue. He will finish 25th. Robert Mikes 24th in the 17 machine, and then Gabe Wood with his couple of moments in the final sector. Our most recent retiree in this race. The biggest mover for now, of course, is Chris Fowler, but that will reset very shortly when he takes to pit lane. Doesn't mean Chris Reagan, who's had his ups and downs at +3, JP, at least for the time being, is one of the biggest chargers other than Mark Hone.
And Chris Reagan keeping things fairly solid as well tonight, just trying to stay out of trouble, has stayed out of trouble for the most part. That's what you need to do if, in a lot of cases as a driver, just pick off drivers one by one. If they come up to you opportunity-wise, run at your own tempo. Don't overexert the car if you don't feel comfortable with the overexertion of the car. We'll say this when it comes to the case of Fowler. That is a lengthy amount of time if I'm looking right and how he may have stretched things, or at least played things here.
I think he'll be okay as we see him go on the charge and get in front of Reagan. I think just recognizing that as the car gets lighter, it very much picks up in pace, and so that when someone behind you has the impetus to get past, it's maybe better to recognize discretion is the better part of valor. You're watching RaceSpot TV and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart Indy Retro Series. We're live for the first of 2 races from Twin Ring Motegi. Today it's the Grand Prix layout and the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi. We'll be right back here with a run to the checkered flag as Sean Campbell continues to extend his lead at the front of the field in the land of the rising sun.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to Twin Ring Motegi and the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi, round 13 of 18 in the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series, presented by Next Level Racing. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted today to be joined in the RaceBot TV commentary booth by the one and only Justin Prince. We're in for a fascinating race to the end with one pit stop left for many, but the floodgates have started to open with Mark Cohn and Chris Fowler having already made trips to pit lane for the very final time. It is Sean Campbell, though, that leads by just over 3 seconds from Michael O'Brien, and the Madworks Motorsports number 45, Adam Blocker, has got the fastest lap of the race, though, and sits in third with the former series champion back in the hunt and looking for yet another career victory, JP.
Sean Campbell doing Sean Campbell things again to replicate and restate things. Campbell has been lightning quick all race long, breaking away from the draft of the strategy, now looking to try and seal things. The tough thing is going to be first traffic, that's Mark Cohn. Second, making sure to execute on the pit strategy. This is holding Campbell up a dear bit.
Nervy moments on exit there for your race leader, but he will get through without too much drama. And into turn one, will put a car between him and those chasing him down. Next time by will be 15 laps to go, well and truly within the pit window. David Siwa had indicated a couple of moments ago he's about 10 to go, or 12 to go, excuse me, so about 10 now. It's not that far off the end. It is very much the definition, JP, of a splash and dash to the end.
It's going to be a tight window, about 7 to 5 to go for some sequences for drivers. I think that will be a very nerve-wracking time for some competitors. Others like Fowler, I think, have a chance maybe to pick drivers off here as a result of some of the stops and the difference marks. So it's just the now of making sure you don't make a mistake in terms of how you enter that lane, how you enter the box. Especially with how things can settle around. The more traffic reached by Campbell in the wrong spots, the more things can get intriguing for this fight for the lead.
I think it should be fun as well, that's for sure. Even if it's not a wheel-to-wheel fight, the battles within strategy often can be more fun than people will give them credit for. Craig Forsyth will be, I think, the third car to come to pit lane for the final time today, as is number 53, 40 Sim Racing car, stops in the box, hits his marks. Mark Cohn will get back in front of him. Those two now one lap down officially. Is Valiokus one of the other RSR by butt kicker machines? Still embroiled with this fight with Razmas for fourth on track. About 10 seconds back from the leader as Razmas has a couple of technical issues, but as it runs right now, Valiokus has been unable to find a way past, and these are nervy, frustrating moments for drivers up and down through the field.
Yeah, especially knowing one bad mistake, one bad move, one technical issue, and your entire run can come up in smoke. I say that because Mike Rasmus may have just had his technical gremlins pop out and come up in smoke. He is off the track with the technical issue. Rasmus is out of the race.
My word. Matt Taylor, second in points. Issue early in the race, and now Mike Rasmus with the technical fault, looking at a 22nd place finish. And again, drop weeks will play its part, but JP Rasmus has already availed himself of a couple of drop rounds. He cannot afford instances and things like this.
Now the pressure gets even more intense for Mike Rasmus, because we both know how good Rasmus is, especially with this car. He loves racing this car, especially with how fun it can be. He's made runs in the past in the NASCAR's Road to Pro ladder and made upset runs at sometimes. But this is something that's going to be high pressure if he wants to try and win this championship absolutely now. Where now, he can't even let a tire off the track. speaking of tires, where did Michael O'Brien just go? He's in the pit lane.
I'm curious about this call. We know the car gets faster the lighter it is, but he did not burn the fuel tank. And in fact, I think Michael O'Brien has crashed from second on track.
Yes, I think you're right. He's out of the car. I don't think he crashed it. I think the motor may have blown. He's out of the car. Otherwise, he would have stayed in it. We might have to take a look at this because
we'll have to look at it and figure this out and listen potentially. Maybe it was on the downshift where he compromised it. That's my first inclination. Listen and ride into turn 1 on board with the 45 Madworks Motorsports machine of Michael O'Brien. You can hear it, over aggressive with that first gear downshift. Threw the car into a gear where it never should have been. And as quick as that, two cars, two major cars with championship hopes find themselves waiting in pit lane.
Unreal is an understatement here as Sean Campbell comes in a little bit early, a lot earlier than expected here for this stop. But at this point, the championship has gone up in smoke, to say the very least. I'm not just talking about the motor smoke.
Yeah, whoa. There are moments that define championships. This likely will be one of them. Does this give the opportunity for David Sirois to close on Razmas, with him now being up in second spot? Would tie his best finish? Of course, he's likely to slip behind Campbell, finish on the podium at the very least. But my oh my, how things will change, JP.
How things will change, how things have changed, I think is the better term at this point. With how things have broken out here, this is a disaster if you are a championship contender. Because, again, you do not want to have to rely upon drops to be able to keep in the championship. We've already seen it on Speedway, in Speedway, should say, where some of your top contenders are now getting in trouble because of the drops that they've had to utilize. And guess what? How retro it might really come into play.
Next time by will be 12 to go as what's been a miserable day for Richie Hearn continues. And I think this time it was through the final corner where he had this little moment, but yeah, it's definitely not been the easiest of days. As we'll take a look here, under the bridge, under the oval rather, in towards the final corner. Way too much speed on the entry, and there you can see those new Goodyear logos on the tires as Richie Hearn spools them up and gets it back onto track.
Yeah, not been a pretty day once again from him. But of note, Mike Rasmus is back on the track.
He has to.
He's not the last car running, though. He's ahead of Mark Cohn. In fact, he might still come up with spots because there are a couple others he can pick off here to recover something.
Might be. Oh. Now, top 15 is probably asking for too much. But that's maybe going to be the goal for Mike Razmas, who currently, by the way, runs in 19th, as we see Adam Frazier, by the way, in the 88, rolling down towards pit lane. So if Razmas finishes 19th, he scores 26 points. If he finishes 15th, it's 30 points. So 4 points that could be the difference in a championship that in 2021, Justin Prince, was decided on countback after Aaron Morgan and Matt Taylor were tied on points. We're tied on wins. I think it went back to second place finishes to crown the champion.
And again, if you are a championship contender, you don't want to have to rely on the count back, because these are the types of races where you look at the counts and say, what could have been in some circumstances? For Rasmus, we're talking about a potential top 5 off the board here, which could be huge in that type of a sequence right now.
Chris Fowler's got to be thrilled with this, JP. We think he's good to go to the end from here with 11 or so laps to go. Has gained 16 spots so far after the end-of-line penalty that saw him start at the back of the grid.
Yeah, he's been one of the quicker cars on the track too, so he's done a solid job just taking his time, taking his marks, cutting through the field, and just staying out of as much trouble as he can. And that's been something where Fowler has talked about the need to be able to calm down and relax in some circumstances. We've seen him cut back a bit in our series. Today, he's just been able to carve his way forward and has had the raw pace to ascend up the pylon.
Haven't really talked about track conditions, so let's do that quickly. It's just past the midway point of the day as we cross 3:15 odd p.m. on our racing day. Partially cloudy, and it has swung around, but it's the wind that I think has also played a bit with drivers' mentality and braking points as we've gone through the course of this day. Fowler now behind Adam Frazier, who is also boxed for the very final time, so Fowler's target will be indeed to get up into the top 8, which would be a remarkable finish, all things considered. So Blocker versus Campbell is still something, I guess, that we're looking at. Last time Blocker, by virtue, I think, partially of having just a lighter car, JP, half a second quicker than the 26 RSR by Butt Kicker car, as here comes Blocker to pit lane.
And a Blocker for the race lead, and now with 10 laps to go, scheduled stops begin. I think Campbell's in a really good spot here, though, just 21 seconds back at the time of the commitment cone. Remember, the delta about 28 seconds in the lane.
See, for Blocker, what happens here is he drops, or rather rolls and goes. I think it's going to be closer than I think you maybe thought, JP. Yes, Campbell will already be through into turn 1, but it's only about, what, 1.5 seconds. I think Blocker's still well within shouting distance of being able to challenge for the victory here with 10 laps still to play.
You know what? That might have been the play here, maybe thinking take less fuel, have less time in the blocks. He took 1 second less, just about a fuel, mind you, Arjuna, and that has gained him up that time. Now it's the matter of, can Blocker hit his mark strong enough? Can he make sure he doesn't loop the car around here to be able to close on into Campbell, because he was nearly there before, got loose, started bobbling around. Now it's time to calm down with the tires. He was chipping away previously to get up to O'Brien before his issue.
Luke Daniels has lost it out of turn 10 as Chris Fowler now does in fact get in front of Adam Frazier. 13 odd seconds up the road to Tyler Graff. Don't realistically expect him to be able to close that with the time that we have remaining, but it might be curious to see exactly how much these drivers will fight through the course of these last remaining laps. Here's a look at what happened here as Daniels just on power loops it around. To get word, by the way, from Michael O'Brien that it wasn't a bad shift, one bad shift, it was just an accumulation, minor damage that builds up. It's something you got to be careful in these older gearboxes, JP, where you are very much having to work them more than a modern car.
Especially with the RPMs and how much you hit the chip, so to speak. That can absolutely accumulate on the motor. The more you hit the chip, the more it wants to end up popping, because you don't want to end up being on that rev limiter or overturn the revs for going down. And with how close you need to be on some of these gear shifts, not surprised if indeed it became the case of accumulation.
I always tell this story just because I like to brag about the time that I was not the one that made the mistake. It was Adam Blocker that made the mistake, but we were doing a V8 Supercars race, one of the Australian series, and in fact the series that is maybe the toughest and most prestigious in Australian sim racing. We qualified for the race. We're doing all right. We're running in 13th, coming to the very final lap of the race. It's just come out of a safety car period. It's just a short shootout, basically, is what I'm saying. And on the very final lap, Adam Blocker goes down through the gears, throws in the blip like you've got to do in those cars, over-revs the engine, and blows up on the very final lap of the race. It can happen to the best of us, JP. It is just something where you push it too hard and suddenly it snaps without giving you any warning.
A lot of cases, yes, where you're so used to the rhythmatic pattern, just one time, just even trying to go through the gears and hitting, say, the teeth of your gear shifter. Like, say, if you have an H-pattern shifter, it's so easy to then have it just stuck in neutral, bam, motor goes. You're trying to figure out, how do I get this unjammed? And that's a major challenge that can absolutely come to play. With now 8 to go, though, it's worth noting Sirwall's lead down to under 2 seconds. Sean Campbell is looking to reclaim it even before the pit stop, expected for the 99, as he's been telling the 99 has everybody his fuel mileage.
Yeah, so he should be in what, next time by, maybe, JP, or the time after that?
Give or take. He said 4 laps ago, about 2 laps ago.
Okay, so yeah, probably the next time by, which is not confusing at all. Gap between Blocker and Campbell has actually grown very slightly. It's up to 1.7, it's kind of held there. It would be a shout for Sean Campbell to walk away with a second career victory after taming Adam Blocker in a feisty battle all the way to the end and maintain a 100% record of wins here in this Lionheart Retro Series. And I gotta say, I wonder if the reason why he's enjoying this car, JP, is because it's so raw. A lot of the cars that he'll be racing in for other of his RSR by butt kick commitments will have traction control, will have ABS. They won't be raw, brutal, and always trying to basically kill you, like this car tries to.
I mean, a lot of drivers, Arjuna, actually, especially those who are in those type of series, also love the vintage cars, especially not just the 79, but also when you think about the stock cars from 1987. They love how you have to fight them. They love loose cars. They love cars that depend on driver skill. And that's the major thing we've seen with Campbell. The skill levels have been there. He seems to really love to slip and slide around these racetracks. And in turn, he's worked out really well throughout this entire night once again. Now just looking to slip and slide his way back to the top of the pylon. The tough thing is, though, that gap is chipping away again with Blocker. He is closing.
Just like in American Open Wheel Racing, this series does require adaptability. There is a slight focus on the ovals, yes, but in this final 6 rounds, it is road course oval, road course oval, road course oval, back and forth. And between each of them, they are different. You look at the road courses. From Motegi, we'll go to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And yes, while Motegi is relatively flat, it does have some elevation changes. Is by no means as flat as circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It has got very different curbs to what Montreal will provide as well. And then you go to the Road America, America's National Park of Speed. 3 very different challenges for someone like Sean Campbell. When we talk about ovals, the egg-shaped oval that is Twin Ring Motegi up next. Then to another egg-shaped oval, but to the Worldwide Technology Raceway, will not race at all, like what this 1.5-mile oval will do. And then, of course, the Speedway Auto Club to close things out, where basically it's pedal to the metal and pray you don't get involved with something. Sirois to pit lane, 6 to go. Campbell versus Blocker. It's time for a showdown.
Showdown, going to get interesting. Lap car now on the edge of the track. Richie Hearn is able to stay out of the way of the race leader. That traffic will be the major impact for how this can play out. Right now, if you're Blocker, you need to hit the traffic down the straightaways. If you get held up in the corners, that may cost you about half a lap in time at least.
It's also hard to pass here. We haven't seen too many things at the front of the field, so think about that. The pass that Campbell made to find the point was A, because O'Brien was making mistakes, and B, just because Campbell was willing to stick his car around the outside and hope that O'Brien left him racing room. Valiokas and Sirois might fight for a third now, that final step on the podium. Sirois will want those points in the championship fight. But RSR by butt kicker, 3 of their cars, JP, inside of the top 5. They haven't seen this type of success for much of 2022, but this is what we expected when we saw their numbers coming in to the start of the year.
Especially when it comes to the expectations for that group as one of the higher-up teams in all of iRacing, especially on the road side of things. That has really been executed and showcased with Campbell's appearances, absolutely. The gap down to 1.7 seconds, though. Campbell's been stronger in the final corner. Blocker still struggling to maintain time, it seems, in that same sector.
We'll see how Campbell does on the ovals next time out in a week's time, 7 days from today, September 29th. Live on RaceSpot TV, don't miss that. Return to Motegi, it is bound to be exciting. With 5 to go, we won't just focus on this at the front. Sirwa versus Valiokas. Surely going to be one of the action points of this race. See if we can pick up an incident further down through the fields. We pick up the aftermath of this one and we see Paul Jenkins having a bit of an issue. And there's Luke Daniels. Whoopsie daisy, that's a bit clumsy.
Yep. Trying to go through the gears, but by car. And bad spot if you're Jenkins, as meanwhile.
So that's the initial thing.
Yeah, he was just coming out of the grass, mind you. You'll see as an opening. The car says no thank you to the opening.
At one point they were fighting. They are both a lap down, but separates them for the time being. 27 starters now. 21 runners. 13 on the lead lap. The pace has been relentless at the front from the likes of Sean Campbell. Noting in the YouTube chat one of the other RSR by butt kicker drivers jumping in. As Isaac Snyder says hello, there's Alex Guyon, very slow and now has lost out to Frazier, might lose out to Reagan if he's not quick enough to get back up to speed. Here's a look at what happened to him, JP.
Indeed, and 08 machine. Bit of a slide. Ends up going overcooking a bit of the corner, it looked like. That cost Guyon some spots. Now he's up for grasp to lose the ninth spot. Locker, by the way.
Fastest lap.
He is getting quicker with the lighter car, and that may be the big gamble. Is there enough time, though?
39.1 to a 39.4. So 3/10 quicker. He's got to close and then find the opportunity. Where is Campbell weak? Remember in the IndyCar Series race, JP, he had plenty of time to dive into the strengths and weaknesses of the private label team hype machine of Phil Krause.
Well, Phil Krause was building houses in victory lane, it seems. And keep in mind, Blocker had to work for that win in IndyCar. Now the matter is, can he find the speed he needs? That's the difficult part as we take a look at the battle for 13th. Keep in mind, Roberts just came out of the pit lane.
So his car might be a little heavier relative, depending on how much fuel he has put into the car. These are the drivers. The first of those, 1 lap down. Closing on 4 to go in their battle further back. Sirwa and Valiokas, something to track as well, as they'll round turn 10, but are we full focus on the leaders? They cross the line once more. 1.5 splits Campbell from Blocker. 3 laps to go, and Campbell roars back. He takes back the fastest lap of the race.
Those purple laps continue to trade again, though. Campbell looking good in the technical section of the racetrack, is starting to send it a little bit harder. Pull that gap a little bit further. Blocker forced to back it up a little bit.
Time winding down in this one. Opportunities running out. Craig Forsyth off into the gravel now. It's been a rather careless race for some, JP. And one where drivers, much like what we saw at the Hungaroring, have been fighting the track as much as they've been fighting one another.
Well, this is the type of racetrack that's very difficult, right? We mentioned the difficulty of the pass. It's very difficult to maintain a rhythm here. We've seen that for some in IndyCar. We've seen it a lot tonight with how loosey-goosey these cars can be. Locker has absolutely fallen off a cliff this lap, though. 3/10 lost already.
Might this be race done as Blocker pushed those tires beyond their point of thermal work? Find out. It will be 2 to go this time by. 20 plus seconds the gap between first and third. O'Brien was in the fight at one point. It has very much been 3 cars on top here. in Japan. Some more lap traffic, of course, will play its part. Sean Campbell well and truly in control of this race. In the fight for the final step of the podium, Valiokas increasingly under pressure from David Sirwa.
There's going to be enough time for Sirwa. Different on the strategies. Bit heavier car potentially for the 99. Just needs to close up. He's too far back to even send a lunge at this point.
You see the door? Will it be Valiokas covering inside or outside? Different corners, you will see different defenses, of course. Sounds silly to say that, but one of these corners with the curbing, you want to maximize the width of the track where you can. Guyon, another issue. Same corner it would seem. Nope, this time it's the other side where you cut back through the oval. He drops now down to 10th. Holding on potentially to more valuable points for Raven Lavoie Motorsports. His teammate David Sirwa in that 99 car searching, of course, for the podium spots. Time is running down. Front of the field, Sean Campbell down the hill for the penultimate time. It's 2 seconds that splits him from the returning series champion Adam Blocker. But Sean Campbell has just one lap. Has just 4.8, just under 3 miles left to go back to maintain a 100% record in the Lionheart Retro Series.
Done so by establishing his dominance again on the racetrack, just stretching this gap further and further. A full 2 to 3 tenths quicker a lap the past couple to stretch away from Blocker. What a night it's been for Campbell, just continuing to show why he is one of the top talents to jump in throughout the season now.
All the Lionheart competition seemingly going from strength to strength. Richie Hurd and Ricky Harding will swap around on the jockey into turn 2. David Sirwa still too far behind Valiokas to throw a lunge, in towards turn number 2. Sean Campbell. Does he have the kind of pace to do what Sage Karam did in the start of 2021 and dominate this championship? On the road courses, undoubtedly. The question about the ovals, we'll have to find out, JP, next time we return. It's Motegi in 7 days' time.
That'll be the major thing. We know Twin Ring Motegi's oval can be wild, but for Campbell, it's been anything but wild. It has been calm, cool, and collected time for the 26.
We think he was just the 3rd driver in Lionheart Retro Series history to win on debut, but the history books will show Sean Campbell will be the first to go 2 in 2 on debut as he roars in Motegi to win the HyperX Grand Prix of Motegi. In front of the defending, or rather returning series champion in Adam Blocker, the margin of victory, 2 full seconds. Sean Campbell has announced his arrival on the Lionheart stage.
And what a run for Sean Campbell tonight, holding off the Lionheart King. 3rd spot holding off for Marius 2. What a strong night for Sean Campbell.
For RSR by Butt Kicker, 3 cars inside of the top 5. It does not get more special than this. 27 starters, 21 finishes, 10 on the lead lap. Attrition played its part. Never underestimate the road course at this Twin Ring Motegi facility. With the car streak across the line, this will be one that many are glad to finally put in the rear view mirrors, but they will return to an equally frustrating and challenging oval. 42 laps later, it is a 2 in 2, a 100% strike record for Sean Campbell in the RSR by Butt Kicker number 26. He's on top as we take a look at our simrace247.com unofficial race results. 2 seconds is the margin of victory at the end, but cool, calm, and collected. The plaudits go to Sean Campbell. Valiokas scrambles in front of Sirwa to grab the final spot on the podium, while David Rodriguez bookends the trio of RSR by butt kicker cars inside of the top 5. Tyler Graf for Graphics LC Motorsports will be the best of those fighting for the team championship in front of the hard charger of the day. Chris Fowler, from an end-of-line penalty, climbed his way forward, one of the quickest cars on the track, into 7th spot at the end. Adam Frazier and Chris Reagan, 8th and 9th positions in front of Alex Guyon, who had a couple of slides at the end of this race that demoted him down to 10th. The first car 1 lap down is Jim Herrick in front of Rodrigo Munoz, with Danny Roberts, Richie Hearn, Ricky Harden making up the rest of the top 15, with points leader Mike Razmas down in 16th in front of Mark Cohn, Paul Jenkins, Craig Forsyth and Hugo Gallus. Luke Daniels, the final of our finishers, while Michael O'Brien will be frustrated to be down in 22nd, with Gabe Wood, Robert Mikes, Trevor Malone, 23rd through 25th. Lenini and Taylor for Graphics LC and Madworks Motorsports. More crucial implications of the HyperX Teams Championships, but of course as well in our next level racing, or rather butt kicker drivers points as well. Going to be very interesting how it plays out, with Razmas, O'Brien and Taylor struggling and Sirov finishing this race in 4th. That leads us nicely though in towards our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. We'll give it a couple of moments, JP, for the drivers to join us here in the RaceBot TV commentary booth. But what a race, and a moment that Sean Campbell will remember forever.
Absolutely a dominating run in the second half of the race, especially leading 25 of the laps. He just played the speed right, played the strategy cards right. Campbell on the long run, one of the quickest cars on track, doing Sean Campbell things again.
It was an assertive repeat performance of a trip into HyperX victory lane. Double podium for RSR by butt kicker Valiokas, finally getting just a little bit of luck and redemption going his way in what has undoubtedly been a tough year for him in this Lionheart Retro Series, with 10 starts, of course the 1 pole, just 2 top 10s to speak of in terms of finishes, an average finish of 20th this season, best finish 7th, so he will be delighted to scramble his way forward. I tell you what, we're waiting for the RSI by butt kicker duo, but Adam Blocker is waiting patiently for us, so we'll join him down on the second step of the podium. Adam, how is it like to be back in your old stomping grounds in this Lotus 79?
Yeah, it's been a while, I think 3 years, and the car's definitely changed a lot, so I had a lot to learn. Like, I think just from last night I found 2 or 3 tenths, so yeah, definitely looking forward to get more seat time. But yeah, it was a really good race. Like a couple of the guys had a really good pace, like especially O'Brien and Sean. I didn't really get to see what Taylor's pace was because unfortunately he got caught up on a lap 1 incident. But yeah, those guys were really fast, and it was a really fun race.
Of course, you work in the NTT IndyCar Series paddock, but with the season having come to an end, can we expect to see you maybe a couple more times? We've still got the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as well as the trip to Road America left to come in terms of road courses.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I definitely want to try to do 1 or 2 more. Not sure which ones. Maybe in like one of the short ovals too, like Gateway or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot of fun, and yeah, I really hated to see Michael have his engine problem, probably just over revving. That really scared me because I was kind of taking liberties with that too the whole race.
Yeah, it gave me flashbacks.
Yeah, so I was taking liberties with that, so you know, that got me a bit nervous. But yeah, I mean, I think if I you know, I had a shot at the win, especially if I would have qualified better, or if you know, if I hadn't been so slow in the first stint.
Does it feel a little bit weird to not have some in-car adjustments to some degree relative to what you're, you know, now getting, or rather much more used to with the IndyCar?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I mean, the whole car handles a lot different, especially with like the staggered tires and everything. But yeah, the bars aren't adjustable. You do get adjustable brake bias, but the brake bias is adjustable in like 0.5% increments, so it's a really big change when you do it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, the brake bias adjustment was pretty powerful today, but yeah, the first few laps are just hard because it feels like, I mean, they're locking up fronts or oversteering. It's kind of like no in between. At least I couldn't really get a hang on it, so.
We'll ask you about that lap 1 incident then as we wait for the RSR by Butt Kicker guys to come and join us. But it did seem as though you were struggling with the cold temperature in the tires, went a little bit deep. Taylor, looked to the inside and then just a 3-wide racing incident. Talk about it from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I just brake where I normally did and turn 5 and locked the right front slightly and missed the apex. And yeah, like Taylor got a good run. And I didn't really see what I just saw my mirrors, they crashed, so I didn't really see it. I gotta watch it back.
Well, we'll let you go, Adam. Thanks for joining us. Great to have you back in this Lotus 79. Hopefully, not for the last time in 2022.
Yeah, thanks George for letting me back, and yeah, thanks you guys for calling the race. See you guys sometime.
Adam Blocker, at the very least, we'll probably see him a couple of times on Wednesday nights for the Lionheart IndyCar Series. We'll jump over to HyperX Victory Lane, where hopefully we're joined now by Sean Campbell. Sean, do we have a copy?
I think you do.
We got you loud and clear, buddy. Another victory on RaceSpot TV, this time in the Lotus 79. Once again, 100% winning record. That was a rather tough victory, though. You had to fight a little bit for that one.
Yeah, Adam was coming back at the end, and Michael at the very beginning where we were battling. I couldn't get past him. It was difficult to follow, but he was managing to do it a lot better than I was. Once I just waited for, I guess, a mistake. He was very consistent, though. I think I might have jumped him in the pits, though.
You say you waited for the mistake, but you were also confident enough to go to the outside and really send it under braking. How was the car changing over the course of the runs, especially as the fuel burned off?
It wanted to turn more. Basically, the simplest way to put it. It had to move the brake bias back, or forward rather, a little bit, but not by much. But it was pretty consistent. It didn't want to slide at all. Or, no, rather, it did want to slide at all, but in like a controllable way,
You're someone who likes to challenge yourself across many different cars. Where does this car excel, in your opinion? Where do you find the joy in driving this?
On turn-in. It really wants to turn in, like, really hard, so it's really fun to try and control it.
Thanks for joining us, Sean. Congratulations on yet another victory. Now, though, you've got to do it on the ovals in 7 days' time.
That's going to be tough.
Sean Campbell looks to continue the 100% winning record next week. No pressure on him, of course. We switch over, though, to Marius Valiokas, who grabs his first podium of the season, which feels crazy to think about, Marius, especially given the pole position at Watkins Glen. It's seen a roller coaster of 2022 in this Lotus 79 for you.
Yeah, it definitely has. A little bit of bad luck, a little bit bad driving, so definitely feels like a monkey off my back getting this podium, that's for sure.
Good day for the team as well, with 3 of your cars inside of the top 5. Did you figure something out in terms of how to get the most out of this car and not burn through the tires too much?
No, I think it was just us getting together, trying to compare our laps and finding time between each other, and then just keeping it clean. And consistency was the key in this race, it looked like. People were making mistakes, and our strategy was to just go in and make none of those.
So what's the expectations now for the rest of the year? We still got 2 road courses, of course, still left to play, but 3 ovals, double points at Auto Club. How do you want to sign off 2022?
A few more podiums would be nice. A win would be even better, but with Sean out here, it's going to be tough. I'll do my best for it. But yeah, looking forward to trying to get a podium on ovals as well.
I'm just saying Sean wins enough, so if you got to break out the team orders, we totally understand it. Marius Valiokas from the RSI by Butt Kicker team will wrap up our podium interviews. As always, delighted to talk to all of our 3 podium drivers as part of our post-race coverage. But JP, of course, before we say goodbye, we look forward to a return here to Motegi. 7 days from today, we'll come back to the Oval, a race where last year it ended in tears for so many. 5 wide in the opening stanza of the race, the field decimated. It played out from there. Drivers will be looking to avoid the same thing, especially those mixed up in the championship picture.
You know, remember watching that race as part of the recap side of things last year? I'm pretty sure you can still hear some of the horror screams from the last time
Can
the
hear me
Lotus
screaming.
79s. Yeah, it was something else last time out. Part of me wants to see it go 17 wide at one point. I know you don't.
My voice does not. Plenty of Lionheart action, of course, coming up as well. We'll talk about that in a second. One final look at your Next Level Racing Series schedule, though, with now just 5 races left to play. A week's break between now and our next race, but then 3 weeks before again, back-to-back. Separation a bit more frequent through the end of this championship, and I always think, JP, for those at the front, for those fighting for something, it creates a lot more tension as you wait from round to round.
Yeah, that tension I think going to really pick up with Montreal, as talked about right after the nerve-wracking oval race up next. But when you look at some of the road courses up next, Road America is going to be a very difficult race. The pressure's going to be tight, I think, if you want to be able to win the championship, knowing how big some of the trouble was for drivers like Rasmus, for O'Brien, especially here tonight.
Well, unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and the inaugural trip for the Lionheart Retro Series here to the Twin Ring Motegi Grand Prix course is now in the history books. It is Sean Campbell that continues to impress and continues to excel as he bests the returning Adam Blocker to the Lotus 79, as Michael O'Brien unfortunately finds himself watching on from the sidelines to the end of this race. Before we say goodbye, as always, we say thank you to those that make this possible, starting the title sponsor of the Lionheart Retro Series. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt kicker haptic hardware and software to install and let you feel every bump on the track, slip of your tire, and engine red line. Tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, driving faster and having more fun than ever before.
MOZA Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, MOZA Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
It's not just them, but so many more that make this all possible. To learn more about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series or to get more information on the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts on, head on over to LionheartRacingSeries.com, your home for all things Lionheart. Check out social media to stay up to date with the latest comings and goings from within the virtual paddock. The next time Lionheart is in action, it rolls the DW12s out at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. The Lionheart Speedway Series presented by MOZA Racing will get underway with the MOZA Racing Charlotte 200, the first of the final 4 rounds of the championship on Monday, September 26th, here live on RaceSpot TV. For the Lionheart Retro Series, though, 7 days from today, they'll return to Twin Ring Motegi to battle on the oval for the butt kicker Twin Ring 175, presented by Next Level Racing. On behalf of the team at RaceSpot TV, for Justin Prince, as well as myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us here live for round 13 of this 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. What a race it was, a thriller to the end, but Sean Campbell, a 100% winning record in this Lionheart Retro Series. We'll see you in 7 days' time. For now, so long and goodbye. Will Sean Campbell be able to do it again, this time on the ovals?